Bezok the Heilige Mishnah. We're going to start now the last parak in Kesubos. We're going to be starting now the 12th parak in Kesubos. Bezok the Heilige Mishnah. Hanoisa yasi isha upaski imoy kadeshi yazna spita chameshana. If someone marries a woman and she had already been married before, and therefore she has a daughter of her own, and her second husband agrees to be mazen to feed the daughter of his wife for 5 years, the halacha is chayiv l'zoyin chamashonim, he has to fulfill his commitment. Nisis la'acher, what if this marriage terminated, and now she's marrying a third husband, ufaski imoy kadeshi yazna spita chameshonim, and she made up with her third husband now that he's also going to support this daughter for 5 years. Now the second husband has his own independent chiyuv to give her mezainis for 5 years. So there's two chiyuvim here. Her second husband as well as her third husband were both mechayiv themselves to be mefarnes this girl for 5 years. So lo yomer harishon cheshatavi etzli ezaina. He shouldn't say, the first one can't say, I'm no longer obliged to support her because now you're not married to me anymore. You're married to your third husband. Elo, we force him, wherever her mother is, and she's staying with her mother, meaning with her third husband, this second husband would be obliged to send her the mezonis there. There's two husbands now, the second and the third, that are responsible to support this girl. So they can't say, Hare anu zonin oisa ke'echad, we'll split the expenses. Elo echad zona, one has to give her mezonis in full, ve'echad noisin lo demei mezonis. And the other one has to now provide money. He has to give her money in lieu of the mezonis, because she doesn't need two sets of mezonis, but he is still mechuyev to give her. What halacha if nisis, if this girl now got married, so now her husband has a responsibility to give her mezonis, but that doesn't absolve the two husbands of her mother of giving her mezonis as well. So she's getting mezonis now 3 times. Mesu, what if the husbands die? B'nai saying their own daughters, nizonos, who get mezonis from the estate with a tnai ksuba. Therefore, the Tnai Ksuba only says that they get paid mina chasim b'nei chayrin. But for this girl who is the benefit of the obligation of the two husbands to support her for 5 years, she's nizonis mina chasim mishabat. She can collect even from fields that either of these two men had sold. She could retrieve those fields that were sold because she's collecting like a bal chayv. And a bal chayv has the right to collect from the coupons. If the husbands were smart, they wouldn't rely on an umdana, because any normal person would never want to support their daughter, their wife's daughter, after the marriage ended. But the pikrim know that it's not enough that they don't want. They have to speak it out. And in fact, that's what they would do. Sure, I'm going to support your daughter for 5 years, but that's only while you're together. And Rashi speaks out, as Akiva Bolter mentioned so good this afternoon, is that excludes 3 scenarios. If the husband dies, my estate will not be responsible to support your daughter. Or if you die, if I give you a get, so if for any reason our marriage is no longer active, I will not be supporting your daughter. Zok the Gemara. Avigdor asked on Friday, what's the chiddush of the Mishnah? It's a commitment. So this Gemara is going to bring out that commitment, that chiddush. Itmar. Someone told us, I owe you a mana. Rabbi Yochanan said that's machayivim. For Shlomo Potter, that's not machayivim. Hechidami. Exactly what was the scenario? If there are Adam standing there, and Reuven says, "You're my Adam," as I declare that I owe Shimon money, well, surely I should be mechuyev. My time there is Shlokish took a potter. Why would your Shlokish say it's potter? Now, why do you need to say atamedai? I agree. The answer is because I can say Mishatani Boch. I didn't really mean to say Edus on myself. I was playing with you. But if I point Adam, you're my Adam, but I'm saying this, that's no longer a game. And if the Loiva didn't declare Atamedai, my time at Rabbi Yochanan to go Machayev. Why would Rabbi Yochanan say that declaration will be Machayev? Zokt Gemara Lo'olam Deloy Kamalu Atamedai. He didn't say Atamedai. According to Rashi, it means he wrote on the star, I owe you $100. He didn't sign any name. It just says, I owe you $100. And in front of Adam, he gave this piece of paper to the Malva. And Adam see him giving that paper. So maybe giving it over in the paper is more powerful than just saying the words. Rabbi Yochanan is Alima Mills of the star command the Amrlu Atam Adam Dami. Since it's written in the star, it has a greater strength. And it's as if he appointed him as Adam. So it's serious stuff. And it's Taka Mechayim, the Mana. Potter, because Alima Mills of the star. The star doesn't create such a serious transaction. These are Rashi learns. The Rambam actually learns that he doesn't give him any paper. He just tells this person in front of Adam, I owe you a mana that I borrowed from you with a star. And when you say that, that's Machai. Okay, so now comes the raya to this Shaila. Why is this Shaila relevant? The Shaila is relevant because we have a raya to this Shaila from our Mishnah. Now we learned. Someone who committed to support his wife's daughter 5 years has to support her. So for Rashi, what is the Chiddush? Like a Victor asked. So my love, the only way we can extract some type of Chiddush out of this Mishnah is Kihai Gavna, is if the transaction was done in a fashion similar to the Machlokes of Rabbi Yochanan or Shlokish, and the Tanakh is making a statement that we pass him like Rabbi Yochanan. Now that's a Chiddush. So Rashi, my love, Kihai Gavna, Ma Eidus Yeshla, La'achas Man B'davar Zeh. Where is there Edom that are verifying that this husband ever made a commitment? Lav Kihai Gavna. It must be in the following fashion. So Moiser lo shtar b'fnei Edom. He gave her a paper in front of Edom. The chasav boy, and all it said was Ploini kibel olav kach. Ploini was makabelos. So the paper itself has no validity. It's only because it was done in front of Edom. There's no signature. There's no kinyan. The avishtar chasim biyada. Remember, if he wrote a star, I Moshe Pipik, oh you sorry Leah, this commitment, that then it's pashat amukli. But this is sort of a very generic thing that he wrote, but he did it in front of Edom. And maybe that's the chiddush of our Mishnah, that's considered a commitment. So let's say you have a raya from our Mishnah to Rabbi Yochanan. Zok Gemara, you don't have a raya at all. It's actually speaking where the star was explicit. But if the star was explicit, so then you might ask me, what's the chiddush of our Mishnah? Of course, in an explicit star, he's obliged to support this daughter. Zok to Gemara, loy b'shtori psikta. It's actually an explicit star. So what's the chiddush? Uchidrav gidol, because this star does not have a kinyan in it. And Rashi tells us, what are the story psikta? Hachazon v'akala poshkin tanoim shebeneim b'shnei edim. The chazan side and the kala side have their financial discussions to finish off and complete the shidduch. And the edim chazan, the edim gemura, there's edim signed on this star that this was what they made up. Correct Rashi, the timer MK Maila member, what's the chiddush? If it's a proper document, a star, it's going to like a kinyan, eladvar. There might have been a star written, but there was no kinyan made. When they discussed the shidduchim, there's no kinyan made. But the chiddush is that you don't need a kinyan when it comes to the discussions and the agreements made between the chassan side and the chala side. What are you going to give Nadin for your son? I'm going to give this and this. How much are you giving? So before we go on, notice who made the first demand and who made the first commitment. The first demand was made by the girl's father, and it's the boy's father who committed first. And only after that did the boy's father turn around and say, "What about you, the girl's father? What are you committing?" Just saying.
Times change, eh?
Amdu v'kitchu, and then based on that discussion, they continued on and they made a kedushin. That creates a kinyan And this is a chiddushdik opinion that applies to shidduchim. These types of commitments, the commitments of a shidduch, are niknin be'amira. The Dr. Tshuva says, but there drush on these words, is we know how many details and how many obstacles and how many challenges there are when the shidduch comes together. When it finally works out, that's a nace. It's niklin b'amira. It's only happened because it was declared arboim yoim koydim mitziras avlad. It was declared that bas ploni leploni. It's only that made this go through, because otherwise it would be very hard for two families with different demands and different needs, different priorities to come together. Toshma. So we're going back to our question with Rabbi Yochanan Rish Lakish. We did not have a raya from our Mishnah. Let's see if we have a raya from somewhere else. Because of the kohen, someone wrote a kohen. So he has a son who's a bechor that he has to be paid, and he wrote to the kohen, "Shadi chayv lo chamesh sloim. I owe you 5 sloim," which coincidentally is the amount of sloim you need for picking the bed. So the law is chayv litin lo chamesh sloim. He has to give us chamesh sloim, and even if he gives the chamesh sloim, uvenoi einei padri, it doesn't work for picking. So, but the fact of the matter is, you wrote a star to somebody that I owe the money, and it works. It creates a chiyuv. So this should be a right to Rabbi Yochanan. So the Gemara, shiny hosam, by the case of pidyon haben, you know why it works? Because there's already a shibud midaraisa. Because once one has a child, a bechor, there's a shibud to pay the kohen, 5 slave. So shiny hosam the meshubud midaraisa. So there's already a shibud. So me writing it didn't create a shibud. It's just connecting on to the existing shibud and it's being mechayiv to give the money. Why in the world would you write that if there's already a shibud there? He's just trying to commit that it's this coin that I'm going to use. Correct Gemara, so then it's perfect. I wrote him a star, I gave him the coins. Why in the world should this pidyon haben not be valid? Because of Ula's halach. The Amar Ula said, Dvar Torah Padri, Mida writes that once I actually give the coins, pidyon is good. So why would you say it's not good? It's a gzeira d'Rabbanan. My time Amar B'nai Einei Padri. What if I have a star that says Chaim Yankel owes me $1,000? Now that star has value because with it I can collect $1,000. Am I allowed to use that to be paid bechor? The answer is no. It doesn't work. There's limudim in the Torah that it doesn't work. Now, if we would allow such a configuration to happen where I give a guy an IOU note, and then I give money later, people will say, hey, I see stars do work when it comes to pidyon haben. So if that's the case, maybe this type of star should work as well. So therefore, Ula said, whenever you bring a star, the whole transaction is invalid. You'll have to find some a different coin and different money because we don't want people getting confused and thinking that stars might work. Amar Rava. So we were unable to shlug up Rabbi Yochanan or Shlokish. So Rava suggests Kitanoi. Maybe the machlokes Rabbi Yochanan or Shlokish, if such a transaction is valid, when you gave someone a piece of paper that says, I owe you $100, and there's Adam there, maybe that would be totally in a machlokes Tanoim by Orav. Orav hayotza achachitim stars. Imagine we write a star, Reuben writes a star to Shimon, I borrowed from you $1,000, I owe you $1,000, and 2 Adam sign on that star. After that star is all done, Levi comes along and signs, I'm an Orav, Levi. But the problem is, he only added his Aravis after the Adam, after the star. So that's called Orav Hayotze Achachitim stars. And Orav who only came along after the star was signed. Allah is goyvim in the chasam b'nei Torah. That he wrote on the star, he's obliging himself, will indeed oblige him. And therefore, if the Levi cannot pay up, they can go to Levi, they can go to the Orav and collect from a talplin that he has, from karka that he has, from Azar to the Avs that aren't sold. But there's no shibud on his hischayvus because there's no Edom that are on his hischayvus because he first took on the hischayvus after the Edom side. But it does oblige him. Such a case occurred to Rabbi Shmuel where they were trying to collect from this Arv. And Rabbi Shmuel paskin, in fact, that the Arv did oblige himself by writing I'm an Arv at the bottom of the star. Amrloi Benanis told him, That the Arav signed on that star does not oblige him to do anything. Amar loy lama, Rabbi Shmuel said, why not? He signed there on the star. Amar loy, very simple. Imagine Reuven owes Shimon $1,000, and as much as Shimon tries to collect, Reuven's not paying. One day Shimon meets Reuven in the shuk, grabs him by the neck, and is choking him to death. I want my money. And Shimon goes, I want my money. And Levi's walking down the street. He sees Reuven choking Shimon to death. So he goes over to Reuven and says, what are you doing? He says, he owes me money. So Levi says, you know what? I'll pay the money, but don't kill the guy. Leave him alone. I'll pay you. So he leaves him alone. The guy goes free. And then he turns to the third party. Says, okay, pay up. He says, I'm not paying you. I don't have to pay you. You know why? Because when you originally lent the money to the Levi, you didn't do it based on me. I wasn't even in the picture. I just came over afterwards. So in fact, I don't have to pay you at all. So Zok to Gemara, Lema Rabbi Yochanan, the Amar Rabbi Shmuel. Let's say Rabbi Yochanan who says that this shvacha type of writing does oblige me, holds like Rabbi Shmuel, and that's why the Arav is obliged. Rish Lakish who says that this shvacha type of writing in front of Adam does not oblige me, would be the Amar Bananas, would be like bananas. Zok to Gemara, you don't have a right. The bananas kul amalei. Everybody would agree, according to bananas, there's no obligation. There's no obligation for the Arab, and there's surely no obligation for someone who wants to be mechayiv himself money to somebody else. And Rashi explains that arevus, there's actually arevus mentioned in the Torah Midaraisa, because it says by Yehuda, when he wanted to take Binyamin and Yaakov didn't want, Yehuda said, Anochi Arvenu, I will be an Arab. So you see that there's a concept of Arab in the Torah. That means there's a Shibud Deraisa of Arab. And even there, Banana says, it doesn't count if you just signed after the Edom. So surely, if you want to just out of the blue be mechayiv yourself money with no prior Shibud, surely Bananas would hold that wouldn't work. So Bananas for sure cannot agree with Rabbi Yochanan, only with Rish Lakish. But what about Rabbi Shmuel? Ki pligi alibid Rabbi Shmuel. The whole shaila is, according to Rabbi Shmuel, could Rish Lakish fit in like Rabbi Shmuel? Ki pligi alibid Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Shmuel. Surely Rabbi Yochanan who holds that it is a valid chayvus has to hold like Rabbi Shmuel. Rish Lakish, maybe he could also hold like Rabbi Shmuel. I can like Rabbi Shmuel also. Why did Rabbi Shmuel say that this signing of the Arav works, even though it's after the Edom, is because we find a Shibu Deraisa of Arabis in the Torah. But just as a new thing, just because I give you a piece of paper that says I owe you $100 in front of Edom, that means I owe you money. Here there is no Shibu. So there's a famous story that happened in Bnei Brak, where the shotgun was working very hard to bring two parties together. And of course, the first question the Boyd family asks is, how much money is the Kala's family offering? So the shotgun said $70,000 US dollars. So the Chosn side said, okay, we're interested in the shidduch. I don't care what she looks like, I don't care, but I read this $70,000. So they're doing the shidduch, and they're about to get engaged, and then the Mechatanim meet to discuss the finances. And the Kala's father says, I'm proud to say I'm going to be giving $40,000. So the Chosn's father says, what do you mean 40? The shotgun told me 70. He says, I don't know. I only said 40. I don't know where the shotgun got it from. He says, well, I want 70 or else the shidduch is off. And the Kala's father said, I'm sorry, I can't do it. So the Chosn's father gets up and says, we are not doing the shidduch. We are out of here. And he walks out of the shidduch. There's a wealthy guy in the community who hears that there's a shidduch that's breaking off over $30,000. So he says, you know what? Just do the shidduch. I'll pay the 30. Why should we let the shidduch get ruined? In the meantime, while this is going on, the Bacher himself went to speak to his Rosh Yeshiva to tell him what happened. And the Rosh Yeshiva told him, are you kidding me? You're walking away from a shidduch for $30,000? Are you crazy? Is this what I taught you in yeshiva all these years? Don't answer that question. Is this what I taught you all these years? I value you to do the shidduch. So the boy comes back and says, I want to do the shidduch. Now the Gvir said, I only wanted to kick in the 30 to salvage the shidduch. But I know the shidduch is going through anyway. I don't want to pay. So what's halacha? In other words, I only did it. You're doing the shidduch without me. Just like the Levi said, just like the Arab said, you lent the money without me. You're doing the shidduch without me. Why should I pay? So they paskin, Reb Chaim Kanievsky paskin, that although in Dinei Mominus he doesn't have to pay taka because of this, but it could be to nether tzedakah. So he says he should be mat to nether. Shouldn't pay. Should be mat to nether. Okay. Zok to Gemara Vayta. Gufa. Amrav Gidel Amarav. So we're going back to the shadufim case. How much are you giving now for your son kach v'kach? The kama atanois levitkel. How much are you giving for your daughter kach v'kach? Amdu v'kitchu kalu. Heinin varam anitin b'meir. Amarav. Mistaver milta derav b'bitei naira. It makes sense that if I am obliging myself to give a nadin for my daughter, the daughter that I'm giving the nadin for is probably a naira. You know why? Because I get the mois kedushin. A father is zoichin the mois kedushin from his daughter naira. So I'm more inclined to give. So that's why I'm going to be the kamatei no liyode. I'm a boigris, but if I was married off a boigris, the lematei no liyode, where I'm not going to benefit 1 penny from this marriage, I'm not inclined to be so generous in the gift. Lord. Well, like him, but it's a shvuah. How could this be? That's not true. Amar Rav, afilu boigris. Avad Rav said even a boigris, the father is obliging himself. If you don't say that, the father of the boy is also being mechayiv himself. He's definitely not getting any kesef kedushin. So obviously, I'm being mechayiv myself without getting cash. So what good thing is coming to me that's making me be inclined to be mechayiv myself to give a contribution to the shidduch? The kamechasni ahadodi. Oh, my chutner wants to be meshadach for me. It makes me feel good, and vice versa. That I know, gomri umati ladodi makes them feel that generous spirit to give towards the couple. Amalei Ravina Ravashi. Unlike nowadays, where every party says, "Oh, he's so lucky to get me." In those days, they said, "I'm so lucky to get him," and that's why I'm inclined to contribute. Amalei Ravina Ravashi. The varim hanonu litli l'chasei v'ilonitu l'kasei. Should you write a star about these arrangements? So the two parties have a discussion. Do they write a star with Adam to create a verification, a record of this discussion? Amalei, Rashi said, "Loy nitnu lekaseh." They shouldn't be written down. And Rashi, you know why they shouldn't be written down? Because clearly this chiyuv is not mechayiv somebody to create a shibud so that if I don't have the money, they can collect from other lukufis. And we're afraid if you write it down and there's a star there, you might actually collect from lukufis. And for sure, there's no shibud on my karka. My karka won't be encumbered, so you wouldn't be able to collect from other lukufis. So therefore, it's better not to write this down with Adam. Eitzvei. But the problem is, if you look at our Mishnah, it seems like they did write it down. Because what does our Mishnah say at the end? Hapichna you koisvin almanach she'ezin espitcha chameshonim kol zman shat imi. So it says koisvin. So it's not for these extra deals that the Chazon Kala made were done in writing. Zok Gemara doesn't really mean writing. My koisvin oimrim. It just means they said it. Since when do you use the word koisvin to describe amira? You're calling amira ksiva in? As a matter of fact, yes, and we have precedent. But now, we had it earlier in the Masechta. Someone who writes to his wife, "I'm not going to demand anything from you," so he can't demand any shvuos from her. And it says a koisev. He writes it to her. V'tani, right after the mission, the Gemara says, it doesn't mean he wrote it, it means he said it. So you see the Mishnah sometimes describes an Amira with the word HaKoisev. Tachma. Ein koisvin story erison v'nesuin elo midah shneim. You shouldn't write the story of erison v'nesuin elo midah shneim. Now, story erison, I understand what that means. It's a star that says, Harayat mikudesh esli, b'shtar zu. Well, what is star nesuin? It probably means this type of star where we're deciding on what we're each going to contribute. And it says you could only in koisvin story erison elo midah shneim. Hamidah shneim, if both are agreeable, koisvin you're right. So you see over here, you could write these type of stories. My love story psikta. Probably that's what I'm talking about, story psikta. So if you might know, it's story erison mamish. It's story erison mamish. So why does it say erison v'nesuin? Because we're talking about story erison that you're actually marrying a woman with. You're actually marrying a woman with this star, as Rashi says. Story erison mamish is the star shebekalish b'yeshisha. It's the actual star that you're going to use for the kedushin, which says Harayat Mugadesh Asli Kosev b'shtar umoisav, and he gives it over to her. Bashemina, and what is the chiddush of this brisa? It's lichtoiv al pia. You can't say, I want this woman, so I'm going to write up a star. Harayat Mekadeshes Li. I have to first consult with the woman, and she has to be agreeable first that we should write this star. Either a papa or Rav Shravia, like a papa and Rav Shravia said, the Amri, they said, Kasvu Shalei Midaita, Eini Mekadeshes. If the star was not written with her knowledge and agreement, then she is not Mekudeshes. So Zog to Gemara. Zog to Gemara. We are up to up here. Rav Papa Rav Shravia, like Rav Papa and Rav Shravia. Ditmar. Kisvu l'shma. What if he wrote the Shtai l'shma? He wrote it for her, but the Shalemi Daita, she didn't know about it. Rabbi Ravina Amri Mikudeshes. Rabbi Ravina says this will be good anyway. Rav Papa Rav Shravia Amri Ein Mikudeshes. Rav Papa and Shravia says it's not Mikudeshes. And that's what this brother is trying to tell us. Nothing to do with recording transactions. Toshma. Mesu. Our mission says Mesu. If these husbands died, but this girl who he committed to, his wife's daughter who he committed to support, so you just said now you don't write it down because you're nechasim ar meshubed, but our Mishnah says beferish that you're nechasim ar meshubed, and if you sold property, they can come after you like a regular bachai. So how could you say you don't write down these type of stars? You write it down and you collect mishubadim. So our Mishnah is speaking in a unique case. Our Mishnah is speaking where there is a kinyan made. In a normal case of Shaduchim, there's no kinyan made, so therefore there is no shibud. But in the case of the Mishnah, it happens to be in a unique case where it was Kadam Yadai, which is a doich. The Mishnah says it's tam. But frankly, if it's Kadam Yadai, then everything's Kadam Yadai. So Yihavi Bonis Nami, Bonis Nami. So his own daughters as well. If a kinyan was made for her daughters, then obviously a kinyan was made for everything here. So then why can't his own daughters also collect from Shabbatim? So Gemara knows they only made a kinyan for her daughter, not for his daughter. Correct Gemara, who my pascha. Why would you say that? It doesn't make sense. Gemara, I'll tell you why. Eid aboy b'shas kinyan, mahanula kinyan. Yes, there was a kinyan made in both places. But the wife's daughter, when he married his wife, she came with a daughter into the marriage. So since the daughter's there, yes, he can oblige himself with the kinyan to support her. But the children that he's going to have with his wife together are not born yet at the time of the marriage. The kinyan will not help for them. Frank Gemara, what are you talking about? You're limiting our mission to a case where there's no children. There might have been children even at the time of the marriage. Why? How would that be possible? So he married a woman who had a child, and he didn't oblige anything. And then he divorced her. Then he had some children with her. Then he divorced her. So now she's a single mom. She has children from husband A, and she has children from husband B. And then she remarried husband B. Now when she remarried husband B, they made the deal that he would support not only his children with her, but also her children with her first husband. And there's a kinyan, and the children are there. So why is it that only his wife's daughter can collect from the chasam mishabadim, but not his own children? Dr. Gemara, I'll tell you why. Ella ihi the lesser b'tnai bezdin. This girl who doesn't have tnai bezdin, mahanila kinyan. The kinyan helps. But Banos, his own daughters with her, the Istnahu b'tnai bezdin, where they're included in the Tnai bezdin, therefore, like mahanila kinyan, the kinyan won't help. And it only remains with the Tnai bezdin, which does not include Mechshubadim. Frankly, that's not logical. Migragari, because it's a Tnai bezdin being mechayib to support my daughters, so that's why a kinyan shouldn't be mechayib anymore. That's not logical. Ella, the real reason is benois of hainu taima. The reason why by his daughters they cannot collect from mishubadim. In fact, if a kinyan was made, they really do have a right to collect from mishubadim. But the problem is the blakeh could say, how do I know that your father didn't give you the cash while he was still alive? Given the isnu b'tnai bezdin emar tzrari at vesinu. When they try collecting from the Lekuchos will say, I'm not going to give you my karka. For all I know, you already had cash from before your father died. But the wife's daughter, we're not going to suspect that he would have given them cash. His daughters, who he's mechuyev to support with the chnak suva, there we're choshed that he might have given them cash, and therefore they cannot collect from the chashem shabbat. The Rishon cannot say, I'm not supporting you. Go to let them support. And what does it say? It says he has to send the money to her el ima. So that means we're assuming that this woman's daughter from the previous marriage is living with her. Why is she living with her? Why isn't she living with her father's estate? The daughter lives with the mother, and she doesn't live with the brothers. In other words, the brothers can't say, you need to live with us. Who said we're speaking about an adult girl, and even an adult girl lives with the mother? Maybe an adult girl would be forced to live in the estate with her brothers because she's getting money from that estate. Maybe our mission that says that this child is by the mother is speaking by a young girl. And by a young girl, there's a special reason why we would let her remain with her mother and not force her to live with her brothers that she shares a father with. Because of a tragic story that happened. The Tanya we learned, if someone dies and he has children from one wife, and then he has a second wife with whom he has one young child, the Yosy Ab could say, the children, the older sons of the father can say, Yeh God let's I want him to live with us. If he's going to be sharing in our Yerusha, let him live with us. But the mother said, no. Yeh b'ni God lets me. My little son, he's a little boy. I want him to live with me. The halacha is she has the right to demand custody of him. But they definitely, you don't let him stay with the brothers who will be Yerushim. You know why? Because we're actually afraid they're going to kill him because he's diluting the Yerusha. Now this gear is interesting. It's either Erev Rosh Hashanah or it's Erev Yom Rishon, the first night, Erev Harishon, or the article brings down that there was a gear that says Erev Pesach, and they took it out because they were afraid that Goyim would say, oh, you see the Jews shecht people Erev Pesach, which adds to a bloodline. But whatever it means is they did murder their brother because he was diluting the Yerusha. So for that reason, we don't leave vulnerable people in the environs of someone who feels like they're diluting their Yerusha. The same thing with this little girl. This little girl is taking money from a Zionist. She's taking money for Naden. They have every incentive and motive to want to kill her. So therefore, the mother can say she's going to live with me. Zok Gemara, no, we still have a right from our Mishnah that even an adult daughter would live with the mother. You know what? Because in Kain Lisni Lamokaim Shehi. It should have just said that you send the money to wherever this girl is, whether it's with the mother, whether it's with the brothers, if in fact sometimes she has to live with the brothers. But it doesn't say that in the Mishnah. The Mishnah always does Ma'il Makom She'ima. It says that you're always sending mezonius for a daughter to her mother's place. So you see from here, Shmas Mina, Bas Eitzela'im. The daughter always gets to live with her mother. We're just going to run to the Mishnah and then we'll stop. The two partners, the two husbands shouldn't say, we'll share the expense. Ahu Gabra, the Oiger lay. So the Mishnah said the two people shouldn't say, we'll share the expense. One person gives him a Zionist, and the other one, even though it was a Schaivis, was only from a Zionist, would he have to give her cash? Because since she no longer needs a Zionist, because she's getting it from the second husband, she's entitled to cash. Ahu Gabra, the Oiger lay, Moshe owned a mill, and he lent it out to Shimon. Shimon, you renting to Shimon. Shimon, you're renting my mill. What are you going to pay me? Instead of paying me $1,000 a month in rent, I'm going to give you all the wheat that I have to grind, and you're going to grind it for me for free, and that's worth $1,000 to me. So basically, you don't have to pay me cash rent. All you need to do is grind for me all of my wheat. L'sayfi Yasser. Now the owner Moshe became very wealthy, and he bought himself another mill, but this mill was motorized, was mechanized, so it doesn't need an operator. Zovin Rechaya V'chamer. He bought another mill that had a donkey. It operated not of horsepower, of donkey power. Omer Lay, so he told the renter, I don't need you anymore. Up until now, you would grind for me, but I don't need you to grind for me. So now, now that I don't need you to grind for me, I want $1,000 a month rent. Omer Lay, what are you talking about? Mitchon, I never obliged myself to pay you cash. I obliged myself to grind for you. I'm willing to grind for you. I'm not paying you cash. So they went ahead and tired. Ravina wanted to say, that's exactly our mission's case. They shouldn't say that we're both going to chip in to be mefarnes or one gives him his highness, another wants to give her cash. So you see, since her need for mezainis is no longer there, we change the requirement and we make it into cash. So here too, since the masker's need for milling is no longer there, so we force the soicher to pay cash. Amalei Rabavira, you don't have a right. Midami, there's no comparison. She only has one stomach. She only needs to eat once. Tati Krisas Lesla. So therefore, there's absolutely no benefit for her to have twice food. So you can't give her twice food. So therefore, our mission is to give her money. But Hacha, Mati Amalei, Kain Vizavin, Kain Vaisa. The Leipa can say, I don't understand. What's the problem? You have a new mill that's automated, so grind as much as you want and sell it. And I'll grind for you. So I'll still grind for you. I don't need grinding services. Buy more wheat, grind more, and sell. So you don't tell me I'm redundant. I still will continue paying you the same way by grinding. And you could still grind. Not like a stomach where I can't eat anymore. You can grind more and you'll sell it to other people. Or you'll sell grinding services to other people. But for Loy Amaran, we don't say that the renter can get away with this argument. That's only if he had no customers. So basically, if he wasn't going to mill for the owner, he would have no wheat to grind. What if he has a whole bunch of customers that are willing to pay him to grind? So then then you tell him you're willing to grind the owners. So now that you're willing to grind the owners, grind somebody else's, charge them, and give that cash as rent to the owner. Okay, let's stop here. Mishnah Torah is in 8 minutes. We'll stop here. I good moed everybody. I get in fit everybody. We should be to have a good chsima with every good bracha, brachas of pranotza, brachas of health, brachas of good shidduchim, brachas of shalom bayis, brachas of hakavas hadas, brachas of nachas from our children, and brachas of Mashiach coming, the Karim Mamash.
Right. What time are we learning tomorrow, Yossi?
6:55 is Shachris, so we'll learn at 5:55.
Okay.
And we're also learning right after Shachris as well. So for those who don't want to get up so early, we can learn after Shachris as well.
Okay.
So what time is after Shachris? 9 o'clock?
I don't know how long davening